G'day everybody, and thank you for joining me on Mike's Answer Review. My name is Michael. I'd like to introduce you to the fully built now, fully assembled D110 or Project D110 from Team Raffee Co, Asia Tees. Asia Tees is where I bought it from, guys, FYI. The brand is from Team Raffee Co. It's also known by a few other names, which are the Extra Speed, I think XS01 or something, not XS01, sorry, it's called Extra Speed as well as a brand. You can buy it from RC Mart in the exact identical form. And it's also been called the Boom Racing D110 in the past. So Boom Racing don't no longer sell this item branded as Boom Racing, but Extra Speed do, and that is purchased through RC Mart, and Asia Tees sell it through Team Raffee Co or as Team Raffee Co. So as the title suggests, is it worth buying? Is it worth keeping? So to dive straight into it, to not make it into a really long video, the short answer to that is, from my perspective, my opinion, my experience for the last week of driving it, it's now got roughly 4 hours worth of driving. It is, depending upon whether you build it to a certain way or whether you just keep it stock. So there's a couple of stuff I've done to this to actually make it perform as good as it can, and also to have as much longevity and to be as durable as possible. So the first one I did was I decided to change the drive shafts, which are the front, center, and rear drive shafts, from the standard drive shafts that Team Raffee Co provide, which are also metal, so they're not too bad to begin with, not too shabby, but because they've got brass inserts and brass joiners, they're just not, from my perspective, from my opinion, they're not durable enough. They weren't durable enough. They're good to have as a spare in case I do break the ones that are on it, but I don't think I will be able to break the ones that are on it because they're solid. So I upgraded them to the Boom Racing Badass front, center, and rear drive shafts, which is something that's been recommended to do if you're going to build this kit. The other thing that was recommended to do was actually just change the axles to either Yoda's or the BR90s from Boom Racing. I haven't done that yet because I wanted to see how far I could get with these axles. They're not a bad axle. They're not the greatest, but they're not that bad if you, first of all, if you treat them correctly. Second of all, if you do the right things with them. So from factory, this is the version 2, by the way, guys. It was released, I think, 2019, late 2019, somewhere there, from Asia Tees. The version 1 did not come with shimmed diffs or shimmed axles. This was shimmed from the factory. There wasn't much play at all in the way it was assembled, even though I disassembled it again and obviously put it back together and lubed it up and made sure it had enough shimming in there, which it did. Okay, I actually had to only add one shim to the right-hand side rear of the diff to get it to where it is, where there's no movement at all. So it actually functions fairly well. 4 hours I've driven it now. I've driven it on terrain not so dissimilar from what that yellow thing is driving on. That's not my one, that's somebody else's. So I'm just borrowing someone's video to show you. But the terrain that I've been driving it on is similar to that. Just a little bit of rocks, a little bit of climbing, not too out there, because bear in mind, this is a 6.5 kilogram body, or roughly around about 4 pounds, 5 pounds, I think. So it's not too light. It's fairly heavy. Now, when you think about it, if you do a lot of climbing with your videos, if your intention to buy this and rock climb it, I'd suggest not to buy it, because if you endo this and if you flip it, it's going to do damage. It's gonna rip it up. So I would buy this if you are going to keep it as a trail vehicle, like, as I said, not too dissimilar from what that guy's doing there, which is a little bit of sand, mud, rocks, but not too much. Okay, that's what this is made for. Yes, the doors open. They're a bitch to actually close up and re-put back in, so I'm not going to open them. But this one here does have the full opening doors and hood and the rear door. I'm not going to do that either because I have to unbolt this screw here somewhere to swing the actual tire holder out and then open the rear. But they do open. They do open. It does have a full interior, as you guys can see. So a lot of people will hammer me for actually tinting the windows on this. But it's just the look that I like. Unfortunately, it didn't end up the way I wanted it to, so I am going to be replacing the glass on it and probably just keeping it clear this time because the tint doesn't stick well to it, so it's ended up with a lot of bubbles and stuff, which look shit. But I have ordered new glass for it from Team Raffee Co from Asia Tees. You can buy glass for them. Unfortunately, it's going to set me back a good $150 for the whole set of glass, which is a pain because, you know, that's including shipping. Because, as I said, yeah, it's money I didn't want to spend. But, well, I stuffed up on it. So, to actually have this where I will keep it, and I want to keep it, I do have to change the glass because they're not up to my spec. Okay, so I want to build something and I want it to be right, and they're not right. I purchased the Team Raffee Co chassis without wheels and tires. So the wheels and tires were my supply, okay, because I had a spare set of Boom Racing crates on Pro Line high racks, class 1s, 4.19 outer diameter, 1.9 inner diameter, and they fit perfectly on this kit. Because a lot of RC four-wheel drive products, for instance, that D90 I've got there, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same with the D110 RC four-wheel drive, you do have to Dremel out some of this part here if you want to use 4.19s, because the RC four-wheel drive kits ship out with 3.90 outer diameter wheels. Okay, so just a heads up, you can buy 4.19s for this and they will fit without you having to modify anything. The other things that I've put on this as a modification is I've utilized the XSV or XVS front grille and front light surrounds. So these are different to the stock ones. They just bolt straight on. They're from Team Raffee Co, so it works straight onto this body. CC hand bumper is from my D90 build, and I used the CC hand bumper that I actually purchased for this. I used it on the D90 because it actually looks better on the D90, which is there with a worn winch. So this one here actually looks better with the CC hand naked or low profile front bumper because I want to showcase the grille. The other thing that I changed up is the rear bumper. From the CC hand rear bumper, I'm utilizing the Team Raffee Co rear bumper just because it's got the wheel holder already on there. Okay, so I've also put the window surrounds or the door protection guards. Team Raffee Co low profile roof rack with the spare repurposed Rigid Light Industries TRX4 light bar from my old Traxxas TRX4, and the CC hand side step. Okay, so the suspension I'm using is the Boom Racing rear scale suspension setup for D90 and D110 Defenders, as I am using on my D90 Defender, but I'm using the Pro Line Pro Scalers front and rear for this build. As you will notice if you've got keen eyes, the springs are different because this is a very heavy body. So the springs that come with Pro Line Pro Scalers do not have enough resistance to actually keep the body up. They do sag, so I had to use the spare springs that I had from my cantilever setup on the LC70, which I've taken off the cantilever shocks on that now if you have watched my previous videos. So I've used the springs that came off that, which are a little bit heavier duty. So the ladder from Recollection is Yar Racing, and the spare tire is from the original D90, which I've got there. So as it stands, guys, I don't really divulge the amount that I spend on my models, but I do need to kind of do that for this video, and it's not to show off, it's not to say, you know, this is what I've spent on it and you must do the same thing. No, it's mainly there to give you an indication and a guide as to what you can spend on this thing to get it up to where I've gotten it to. Okay, so as this sits, as I said before, I supplied my own shocks, my own wheels and tires, and if you buy the same wheels and tires and the same shocks, this as it sits will be roughly $1,850, just under 2,000 Australian dollars. Okay, so more on the lines of 1,900 if you're in a rush to get it, and if you get it shipped via FedEx, depending on where in the world you live. but I live in Victoria, Australia, and to get this to me shipped, it was roughly $150 using FedEx. Okay, so if the build cost me $1,850 as it sits, minus $150, you'll be looking at $1,700 as it sits without shipping. That's if you buy the same wheels, tires, and shocks. You can, and obviously the electronics that I've got as well, which is the FlySky GT5 transmitter, the FlySky BS6 6-channel receiver, the Hobbywing Quick Run motor ESC combo in one, which is the Fusion 1800 kV, which alone is roughly 290 Australian dollars, I think. And then using the JX 33 kilogram brushless servo, which is roughly 115 Australian dollars. Oh, sorry, no, 89 Australian dollars. Okay, so the electronics are all upgraded as well. And that's if you buy the Team Raffee Co winch and Team Raffee Co winch controller. So as it sits, that's the reason why this costs this much. And the other reason why this costs this much is I actually bought a few spare parts for it. So I bought the Team Raffee Co heavy duty bevel gears. I bought the last two that they had in stock at Asia T. So I do apologize for those that need one, because there aren't any in stock at the moment because I bought the last two. But that's for the diffs, okay? Because I do know for a fact that these like to strip gears if you're not careful with them, and if they're not shimmed properly. However, these are shimmed properly, and I have been careful with it, so yes, they have lasted, the original ones that are in the actual diffs that it came with. Now, in future, if I do end up using those spare bevel gears that I've got, I will end up changing the diffs into either Yoda 2s, which I'm very happy with from RC 4-wheel drive, or invest in the BR90 from Boom Racing, which cost a ton. So to get a pair of BR90 from Boom Racing, you're looking at roughly $400 shipped to Australia for a pair of axles. Okay, so they're not cheap. They'll actually cost more than the chassis itself. So when I purchased this, I had to buy the chassis separate to the body. So the body is something you have to buy as well. And that's, again, the reason why the cost went up. Now, you can buy this as an ARTR assembled with the hard body, whether it's a pickup that you want, pickup D110, so it comes with the D110 length, but it's got a ute body, so it doesn't have the station wagon part. That will be roughly 576 Australian dollars without motor, without transmitter, without electronics, but with wheels and tyres. Now, the wheels and tyres you'll get on it is the same as what RC 4-wheel drive supply with their Grande 2s, which are these ones. So you'll get the stamped steely wheels, and you'll get these sort of tires, which are the 3.90 outer diameter class 0 dirt grabbers. Okay, not too bad, not too shabby. They're not. You can actually drive it with this, and I have done so because I've got a set of them. But if you want it to look better, you'll need bigger wheels and tires, or bigger tires. Sorry, the wheels are 1.9s, and that's perfect size. But the tires, to get it to look the way this does, you'll need the 4.19 class 1s. Mounting class 0 tires on this just looks a bit too small. Okay, they look out of place. Now, the other reason why the money I spent on this is as much as I said is because I also bought this checker plating. This alone cost $56, and then the wide body kit, which alone costs roughly $100 for the set, because you have to buy fronts and then you have to buy rears separately. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff that I've put on this that you don't need. It's unnecessary. It's there for cosmetic purposes. Okay, I had an idea in mind to build something close to what ECD in Miami build, which are the resto modded D110 D90 Defenders, or one of those resto modded Defenders from, I think it's Topcat in the UK. So there's a couple of ideas I had in mind before I built it, but it ended up looking the way I wanted it to look. The paint scheme, obviously, I had to paint it myself as well, because the body comes from factory as a white plastic body. So there's a lot of work that went into this. It's roughly 27 hours of work that go into building this. Everything you see I had to assemble myself, so it is actually a real build, not just an assembly like you get on an ARTR. So I thought the Land Cruiser was a difficult project, but I think I went in with eyes closed when I purchased this one, because there's around about 5 days of sleepless nights that I spent building this and getting it to where it is. So that's my rundown on this kit. So in short, the answer is yes, it is something that's worth buying. You can spend anywhere upwards of $800 to $900 as a stock vehicle shipped to your door if you live in Victoria, Australia, for that price. Or you can spend upwards of roughly, $1,800, depending on if you've got a spare motor, or if you don't have a spare motor lying around. You might as well go a brushless setup. Okay, so if it's your first build, be prepared to spend just under $2,000. If it's a build that you've already got spare parts lying around, so if you've got wheels, tires, and everything like that, you'll be around about the $1,400 mark with a brushless motor. Okay, so if there's any questions, guys, please feel free to hit me up. If there's any, good feedback, bad feedback, let me know. As I keep saying, the only way I can improve is if my audience actually tells me what I'm doing right or what I'm doing wrong. So let me know if there's anything there that, I've left out, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys have. The run video comparison between this and the RC four-wheel drive D90 mechanical comparison will be up next. So I'll do a run video where both of these will be driving, so you can see a comparison between both in the way they both drive, with a little bit of commentary, so then I can tell you guys as to the differences between the way they drive as well, because there are differences. Okay, so until the next video, guys, please stay tuned for the next one. Please stay safe, and until then, see you next time.